Hi, this is Jonah Dempsey, your host of the Human Design Deconditioning Guide. The topic today is, what is it like following your strategy and authority? What's it like, really? What's it like for the different types and so on? Well, first of all, we can't really say what's going to happen because following strategy and authority is actually the only thing that's not a generic, in the sense of something that you don't share with other people. Sure, the mechanism is a generic, like all generators wait to respond and so on. That's something that all generators are going to share with each other. But what happens when you wait to respond is going to be actually what leads you to your own unique trajectory. Whereas if you don't do that, you're going to be on a kind of you're going to be just living out your attributes. You're going to be living out your characteristics. So it's kind of like in astrology, they tell you all these characteristics. They're like, oh, your sun is in Libra, so you're this. Oh, your moon is in Taurus, so you're that. And they tell you all these characteristics about yourself, or characteristics that you share with others. Well, sure, that's true. Those characteristics are true. They're accurate. I don't disagree with astrology at all. I practiced astrology for many, many years. But astrology is telling you, well, first of all, it's telling you half of it. It's telling you the characteristics of your personality crystal. They're not telling you the characteristics of your design crystal, which means they're basically telling you characteristics of your mind. They're not telling you characteristics of your body. And medical astrology tries to get into it, but even then it's more like the ways that your mind affects your body. The ways that mental characteristics play out, because your mind is trying to do this, so it makes your body experience that. And similarly, the body is also the unconscious. So astrology is only really telling you what your conscious characteristics are. You might not be aware of them, but they are the characteristics of your mind. I'll put it that way. Okay, so I don't have any problem with astrology. It's great. It's all characteristics. It's telling you, and these are real. You can notice them. You can, especially when you get really precise, you can notice these levels of commonality. But your commonality with somebody, that's what I mean when I say it's a generic. It's something that you share with other people who also have those characteristics. When you follow your strategy and authority, that's when you really make it your own and you don't really know what it's going to be like. Okay, but that's not a very practical answer. That's not a very useful answer. So I am going to actually talk a little bit, and this is a question from Anna Selim, so thank you for asking that. So, Anna asked me what my experience is like following my strategy and authority. Well, so this is where it gets interesting. Your strategy and authority is dependent on your channels. It really is. If I had different channels, I might have a different strategy and authority, right? Your strategy and authority depends on your channels, which is what gives you definition. So the reason I'm a generator is because I have sacral defined. And I don't have any motors to the throat, so I'm not a manifesting generator. I only have two channels. I have the 4629 and I have the 952. That's it. Those are my two channels. So what it means for me is that it has to do with those particular channels. Now, in my case, both of those channels are my authority channels, meaning they're both connected to the sacral. Now, say I had another channel like the 1858. I don't, but let's just say I did. That would be a channel from the root to the spleen that would actually not have to do with my strategy and authority. That's what's called a projected channel. So as a projected channel, that would not really be part of my core experience of following my strategy and authority. It would be part of my experience of responding to invitation when I'm invited by others, sure. And when I am following my SNA, then I'm going to be, sure, then it's going to play out. But it's not part of my core experience. So that's what I'm saying. Look at your chart and look at what channel or channels connects to your authority center. Do you have emotional authority? Okay, then look at what channel connects to the solar plexus, right? Because if you have, say you have the 659. if you have the 659, regardless what other channels you have, and you have no other channels connected to the solar plexus, that's going to be the primary channel that is your experience of following your strategy and authority. And there's certain unique things about that channel, right? And that's going to play into your strategy and authority. So that's what I'm trying to say is when you really look at your chart and you look at what channel connects to your authority center, that's going to tell you somewhat of your experience. So I'll give a few examples. Okay, say you have the 659 and you're an emotional generator, because all 659s are emotional generators. They're all generators or manifesting generators who have emotional authority. Well, in that case, one of your primary ways of experiencing your strategy and authority is you're going to be waiting for the clarity that you get through touch. You're asked if you want to make a decision, you don't know, and then an hour later somebody puts their hand on your shoulder, or you shake hands with the person, you say goodbye, you give them a hug, whatever it is, that physical contact can trigger the emotional clarity for you. Because 659s are very much, they get emotional clarity through touch. When you're following your strategy and authority, you're really in that aura cutter mode. You're really living that 659. The 659, for those who don't know, it's all about breaking down others' defenses. It's not discriminating at all. It doesn't discriminate about people. So it basically, whoever the other person is, doesn't matter. They could be a bigot, they could be prejudiced. You're not going to be prejudiced against them, no matter what. Because with that 659, when you're really living out your strategy and authority, you're going into it and you're really just living out the person who's able to break down the defenses and connect with anyone. Like I have a friend who has this, and he was parking in a parking lot, and he took a parking space, and this other guy gets out of the car and says, "Hey, I was waiting for that space." And the guy's super mad. He's like, "You effing this and effing that. What's your problem, buddy?" And my buddy who has the 659, he just goes, "Hey, doesn't have to be this way." And then the other guy was like disarmed, and he was like, "Doesn't have to be. Oh, wow, I'm really sorry, man. I had a really stressful week. It's been really hard all week, and I didn't mean to do that." And so he disarmed the guy. So the 659 is very disarming. So when you're really, but the thing is, it's only it'll happen as a characteristic throughout your life, no matter what. There's millions of people out there who have the 659 who are not following strategy and authority, and they still have this disarming quality. They still have, it's still part of their life. It's not that it's not part of their life, it's that when you're following strategy and authority, you're able to fully enter into that. And it becomes not something that just randomly sometimes happens every once in a blue moon. Same with, here's another example of it. And also, it's going to be something it's a characteristic that happens, it's going to be correct for you. Because you're going to have emotional clarity about it. So let's take the 1858. I mentioned that one earlier, a channel of judgment. Taking joy in being critical, taking joy in judging. So these are people that know how to perfect, they know how to improve. But the vast, vast, vast majority of the millions of people out there that have it is not appreciated. It's not recognized. Nobody really appreciates or recognizes it. They just think the person's nitpicky and naggy, right? And they think the person's just being impossible to please and being overly judgmental and critical and so on. And really, these people who have 1858, I apologize, have a tremendous ability to improve things. It's about perfecting. It's about making things better, right? So if you have the 1858, you're going to be, when you're aligned to your strategy and authority, whether you're a projector or a generator or a manifester, you're going to be, that 1858 is only going to be coming out in the correct environment. Like, say it's your only channel. That means you're a projector, because it's a projected channel. If it's your only channel, you're only going to offer ways to improve things if somebody asks you. And if they ask you, you're going to be like, "Are you sure?" You're going to, if they're a generator, because that's respectful to them, right? A generator says, "Hey, can you tell me how to improve this?" And you as the projector say, "Are you sure?" Because that way then they can be like, "Uh-huh." Or they can be like, "Yeah, of course I want you to tell me." And that means no, right? So you learn to suss out, I heard Genoa Blyven talking about how projectors can micromanage how others see them and others' responses to them. And yeah, that's really bad when you're trying to control or trying to overanalyze how others respond. But what's really good that a projector can do, the positive, healthy side of it is to show respect to others, where if you know the other person's a generator, you show respect to them by asking them yes or no questions. So anyway, if you're a projector, you have that 1858. If you're really living your design, if you're following your strategy and authority, you're not going to be like, you're gonna only offer advice when it's invited and when it's to the person that can actually fix it. Or maybe not that second case, because I guess in general it could be useful information. But so I went out to a restaurant with my friend who has 1858, and I said, "Oh, this place looks good," and my friend just volunteered, "Smells like a wet dog in here." Obviously the 1858 is saying, well, hey, it could smell better. You could improve it. You could improve the smell, right? So, and they take a lot of joy in being judgmental of places. Then we got our food, and I was like, "Oh, this is delicious. How's yours?" And my friend goes, "Well, they could have cooked it. I guess it was undercooked, So they're saying, well, it would have been better if it was cooked a little bit longer. It's just like stuff like that. It's like the 1858 always knows how to make something better. But if they're just saying it without... I wasn't inviting my friend to critique the place. I mean, I guess I was kind of, because I was saying, how's your food? But I wasn't inviting a suggestion for improvement. My friend could have been like, not my thing, or I don't really like it. And that's different. That would have been less impactful than it could stand to be cooked. Because saying that it's not cooked enough is a very specific, targeted improvement. That's not what I was asking for. I wasn't asking for what would make it better. If I said to my friend, "Hey, what would make your food better?" My friend goes, "You really want to know?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm actually really interested in this because I'm really interested in wanting to know how to improve restaurants. Maybe for some other reason. Maybe I have a restaurant of my own and I want to know how to make it better, Then it would make sense for my friend to tell me, so that way I could become aware of improvements I never thought of before that are relevant and important to me. Instead, it just comes across snarky and mean-spirited. Okay, so what's my experience? That was the original question. Anna Solem asked, so, Jonah, what's your experience following your strategy and authority? Okay, well, my experience is that when I'm really in it, I notice it. Well, for one thing, I have one conscious channel, one unconscious, or half conscious. So I really notice my conscious channel because I'm so conscious of it, I'm aware of it. And that's my 4629. And I notice that if I enter into a sequence of events, I can tell if it's the right or wrong sequence of events. And it basically has to do with my sacral response. So it's actually, I have a really easy one. I don't know what other people's experiences are, but mine is so easy. If you say to me, "Hey, I got you tickets to this concert," and I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'll go." Then the whole time at the concert, I'm like checking my phone, and I'm like out of it, and I'm not really, it's not something that I really wanted to do. I didn't have a sacral response to it. I was just told I'm going, and I was like, "Okay, I'll go." And then I just, mentally just ended up making myself do something because, hey, you bought me a ticket. I don't want to disappoint you. I have undefined solar plexus, right? I want to prove to you what a good friend I am. That's my undefined ego. All this crap that's not following my strategy and authority. And I enter into a sequence of events, and I'm not in a flow. Because if you don't know about the 4629, it's a channel of flow. There's 3 flow channels, basically. The ones from the sacral to the G center. The so-called tantric channels. And they're all about flow. And, of different kinds. I mean, I guess the 214 is like pulse rather than a flow. But still, they're about direction and things like that. And what's the right trajectory and so on. So for me with my 4629, okay, so I've given an example of a bad one. Now let's say there's a good one. Like it could be 11 o'clock at night and someone could be like, "Hey, do you want to XYZ, whatever it is? Do you want to go look at this house?" Because I was like doing some house hunting. And I could be like, "Yeah, let's do it." Or we'll go on a mission. Or like somebody posted that they had free shelving and it was like 20 minutes away and it was night. And I'm like, "Can I come get it?" Like, "Yeah, it's outside right now. It might rain before tomorrow. Come get it. Do you want to come get it?" Whatever. My buddy, says, "Do you want to go get it?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it," And that's like such an adventure and such a mission that the whole time we're going to do it, I'm in my flow. See, for me, when I follow my correct sacral response, I'm in a 4629 flow. I've had the same thing with conversations. I've been sitting at a bar, not doing anything. I'm responsive, but I'm not like initiating, not talking to anyone, not doing anything, just kind of sitting there taking it in. And then someone will say, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" I'll be like, "Sure." Like, what do you do for fun around here? What do you do? You know, they start talking, and I enter into this flow conversation that all started with them walking up to me and asking me some kind of usually yes or no question, and giving the opportunity to kind of have that sacral yes. And when I'm in that flow, that 4629, it's like everything dovetails. You know, 4629 is the most existential. It's funny. People think gate 20 is the most existential gate, because that's like the gate of insect consciousness. That's just like in the moment, in the moment, in the moment, you know, and it's part of our integration. So it's all about awareness in the moment. But the 4629 is so existential. It can go so deeply into the experience. It's so fully in the experience. It doesn't even know what the experience is. And then afterwards, it's thinking back to all the stuff that happened. And it's like, wow, like what a crazy sequence of events that synchronistically dovetailed one to the next, You know, that's what happens. When I follow my strategy and authority, I enter into a synchronistic series of events where everything dovetails one event into the next in a perfect flow of serendipity. So it's really easy for me to tell if I've followed my strategy and authority or not. When I have, it's like one synchronicity after the next. I'm at the exact right place at the exact right time. And I can't for a moment even think about what's happening. I can't reflect on what's happening. I can't think about what it means. I can't extract meaning from it. I can only do that when it's over. It's like sometimes it's like a 4 or 6 or 8 or 10 hour flow where the whole sequence of events is so perfect that I don't have a moment to even reflect on it until after it's done. Like that happens a lot at festivals or at conferences or at these kind of events that maximize synchronicity. I've never been to Burning Man, but I'm sure that would happen there. Again, if I really wanted to go based on an If someone's like, hey, I got the place, I got the ticket, this and this and this, you want to come? And I'm like, then that's going to happen. It was like that when I was in Chicago. I was in such a synchronistic thing where I'm in such a perfect flow that I walk around the corner. Right at the time, I see the graffiti artists putting up the mural, and they have turntables and they're listening to my favorite song. And then I walk around the next corner at the exact moment that this is happening, that's happening. I mean, last time I was in Seattle, that happened. I was in such a flow, following my sacral. First, I was not in a flow. It was super forced because I was being controlled. And the person was saying, well, do this, do that, meet me here. And I'm like, okay, I'll meet you there. They weren't respecting me at all. They weren't saying, hey, do you want to meet me a little later? They were just telling me. And it's the person I went with. Then they were trying to guilt trip me and pressure me by saying, hey, you took me here. You are going to do this. You can't just leave me alone in this big city. I don't know people and blah, blah, blah. And, they're doing all this guilt trip stuff. So, and then one night I was like, I've had it. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going blah, blah, blah. I just like informed them. They're a projector. So I didn't even invite them. I just was like, I'm doing my own thing. And then I just started walking and I didn't know where to go. And of course I'm not going to like do any sort of like initiating. I'm basically just in my waiting mode. I didn't even say I'm going to do anything. I just said I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait. I just don't want to do this, So I just started to walk, and pretty soon I run into one friend, and then the next, and the next, but each of them, they're kind of like, hey, do you want to come in here? I'm like, nah, not feeling it. Like, I'm trusting my sacral, and I just keep walking. Basically, I decided to keep waiting to respond, right? But it's starting to get into that flow. So then my buddy says, hey, I got an extra ticket to this show. Do you want to come? And I'm like, oh, I really want to see my friend. I'm like, sure, I'll see you. But then by the time I get there, my friend has already left. And then he'd given the ticket to someone else or something. And then the person at the door, I didn't even tell them. I didn't even say anything about my friend. I wasn't like, hey, my buddy's here. I'm waiting to get in. I just was standing there, and he goes, hey, do you want to come in? I'm like, oh, but it's $18. He's like, no, come on in. It's free. I'm like, sweet. So he just like let me in for free. Watched this amazing show by myself in the audience. Totally like so deeply in the moment that I didn't even think about anything else other than the band. Then I leave. I go walk some more. I'm like running into people. I'm like having like great synchronistic events. I come back by the place again. The band is already out. They're on the side of the road. I didn't walk up to initiate and be like, hey guys, great set, because that would not be my generator flow. I'm just walking by, and the singer goes something like, oh hey, he recognizes me. He says, thanks for dancing. That was really great. And I said, sure thing. And it was so cool. Like we just had like a nice little moment where I just waited to respond, and I'm walking around, and this was such a great flow. Like everything flowed. The next morning flowed. It's really special when you enter into that flow. So that's the one thing that I really notice is when I'm following my strategy and authority, my 4629 is like on. and I'm in a perfect synchronous sequence of events, and I notice that I have no interest in looking at my phone. I have no interest in being out of the flow. I have no interest in thinking about what's happening. I have no interest in analyzing it. And there's other times when I end up in a really bad sequence of events, and I'm bored to tears, and I'm like claustrophobic, and all I want to do is leave, and I just feel so trapped, and there's all this pressure. It's terrible. So I really notice, like, very starkly when I've followed strategy and authority or not. Here's one more example. I was in Seattle when it was snowing, and everyone told me I was crazy, but I saw that there was an event with a company called Rainway, and they were giving out free swag, and they were a video game company, and they were in downtown, and it was snowing. It was dumping snow, and the buses were all getting stuck in the snow, and it was taking forever to go anywhere. And my friends were like, "You're crazy. Why do you want to go to that?" Because I had planned it like 2 or 3 weeks in advance. So you might say, well, hey, I planned that in advance. Mental, obviously, it's some kind of mental thing. I should have just done something else and just been spontaneous in the moment. No, I really wanted to go. And, it's not like somebody asked me, do you want to go to this? So you could say, well, wasn't I, initiating? But no, I was so locked into wanting to go. So then one of my friends was like, well, hey, I'll go with you. Do you still want to do it? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like, I was like, okay, like, now I'm really, that's like priming the pump. Like, that's like getting the gears going, like getting the engine started. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Then a couple other friends came along. We had a great time. It was such an adventure. It was a wild adventure. We ended up walking back from downtown in the snow. But it's like, because I really, really wanted to go, and I had that sacral desire, and it was like, yeah, let's do this. The snow didn't bug me, and the traffic didn't bug me, and anything that got in the way didn't bother me. And if I don't want to do it, every little thing becomes a chore. Everything, right? That's the funny thing. If you don't follow your sacral, every little thing becomes an annoyance and a frustration. When you do follow your sacral, you can just overcome all those frustrations. It's not a big deal. You just flow right through them. So I had a great night that night. Or there was another time I was at a party, and the party was kind of stilted and winding down, and I was like, you know what? I really want to just like, I gotta leave. I want to go somewhere. And then my friend was like, well, what's going on? And I was like, and she's also a generator, and I said, well, there's dancing at Emerald City Soul. She's like, oh, I like that place. I'm like, do you want to go? She's like, yeah, let's do it. And she asked me, do you want to go? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And that's always a good sign. When you ask a generator a yes or no, and then they ask you back the same yes or no, that's the best. If you're both generators, it's amazing. Biggest turn on ever for a generator. I'm being a little, like facetious, but I think respect is, sexy, and that's the way to be respectful, is to ask those yes or no questions. And so anyway, we go out, and it was great. We danced, and it was this perfect flow and everything. Like, we met a couple other people. We took a break from the dance floor, all covered in sweat. We go to this other room, and then these two people are sitting there, and they ask us questions, and we got in a great conversation, and we go walking more, and we walk and talk, and then we duck into a Latin music night at a Chinese restaurant, and it's just like perfect synchronicity flow. And the thing is, unless the person has either the 46 or the 29, I'm able to take them on that flow with me, either if they have the whole channel or if they have none of it. I can take them on that flow, and it's so nice to be able to take them on that flow. And even if they have half of it, as long as they just submit, but it's harder then, because then the compromise makes them, if they have the 46 or the 29, they're not going to be able to flow with me as much as they're going to be able to flow with the person who has their harmonic gate. If they have the 46, someone else has only the 29, they're going to be able to flow with that person very well. With me, they're going to be continually kind of getting in the way of the flow. But still, regardless, I can usually overpower that, because whoever has the full channel kind of dominates in that regard, and take them on the flow, and it's just great. And it's just like, so many synchronicities happen. You turn a corner and you see something wild, and suddenly there's a marching band, and suddenly there's jugglers, and suddenly there's a fire show, and it's just like, it's magical. It's magical when that happens, and that only happens from following my sacral response. I remember I was following my sacral response out on a kind of a derive, which is this French word that means like a long walk, kind of an aimless walk. And I go into this park, and there's nobody there. It's the middle of the night, and it's on a hill, and I see Frankenstein and the wife of Frankenstein waltzing with this old-timey Victrola playing a waltz song. That's amazing, That was because they were shooting a short film there. and I didn't see the camera dude. There's only the camera guy and then Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. That's it. But I just see Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein dancing. So that's the kind of synchronicity that you can't predict this stuff. The 4629 is all about having these amazing synchronicities and serendipities, and it only happens when I follow my sacral response. And before I did human design, it would happen once a month, and now it happens almost every day. So, okay. The other one that I have is the 952. That's fully unconscious for me. The 952 is about concentration, and it just starts to automatically happen. And basically, that's getting so focused, so intensely focused in a state of stillness where, again, it doesn't always happen, but I start to notice, if somebody says, hey, will you help me with my taxes? And I'm like, okay, then it's not going to happen. The whole time I'm going to be fighting for attention. I'm going to be like distracted. But if I'm like, yeah, I'll help you, sure. Or not even I will, because that's the ego thing to say I will, but like, do you want to help me with my taxes now? Let's do it. If I do that, and I start to get into it, then pretty soon it's like the whole world vanishes and I'm in this state of intense concentration and focus, and everything is pulled up in front of me, and I'm just like organizing it all, and I'm putting all the documents into stacks. Here's what it's like having 952. There's stuff on the table. If I really get into a flow, I'm going to start to like organize things by shape and size. No water in there. I'm not even going to realize that I'm doing it, but I'm basically just going to be like, yeah, you know what I mean? But see, I'm doing it way too consciously now. Like, this is like a fake version. Like, if I did it for real, it would just be automatic. You know what I mean? But I'm just going to kind of like naturally, automatically do things, that fit. But anyway, basically, that's what the 952 is. It's the channel of concentration. It's the combination of stillness and focus. What people don't realize, it takes a lot of energy to be still. Stillness is an energy gate. Stillness is not like lack of energy. It's a tense stillness. It is an adrenalized stillness. It's having enough adrenaline and enough like resistance to pressure to withstand the pressure to do something else, to stay still. And there's so much pressure to move in different directions. It's almost like one of those Aikido guys who can like sit on the ground. I took Aikido once, and the guy, only for one class, but the guy sits on the ground and he goes, when my energy is flowing behind me, watch what happens when I get tackled. And the guy tackles him and he rolls backwards. Now he goes, okay, now I have a rope coming from my stomach, and an etheric rope, a chi rope, going in that direction. Now watch what happens when he tackles me. He tackles him, it's like hitting a brick wall. Thud. The guy doesn't move. So when you have the energy to resist moving, that is stillness. And that's what gate 52 is. Anyone who has gate 52 in a defined root, it's not the same if it's undefined, they're going to have that as a consistent thing. Okay, well, that about wraps it up. But anyway, in my case, it's the 4629 and the 952. That's how I can tell when I'm following strategy and authority, and that's my experience following it. Thanks for watching.